What's wrong with your pumpkin?
It's farm fresh.
Do you mind if I carve it?
Ready? Go!
Oh, I'm tripping balls, man!
It's stalking us.
It's going after the carvers.
It's just a pumpkin.
This way, dum-dum!
There's kind of a killer pumpkin on the loose.
Or
This is how we celebrate pumpkins. We love pumpkins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. This is Mike. Joining me, as always, it's Mr. Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, pumpkin carvers, and happy Halloween, of course. Some of you may be listening to this on Halloween. Most of you will probably be listening to it after, but regardless, happy Halloween. I hope you have or had a wonderful Samhain.
Cool. All right. Also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Happy Halloween and always happy to be here.
That's right. This is the last episode before Halloween. Okay. So we are happy to announce, I guess, for our official/unofficial Halloween episode of Fresh Cuts, special guest in Gary Hill. What's up, Gary?
Oh, damn glad to be here and with you fine gentlemen. It's been a while since I talked with any of you guys, and I said, hey, is it streaming? I said, okay, can I come on? And here we are. So I don't make it to the movies all that often, so when something's streaming, I could probably talk about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Gary's obviously on the wrong show because he called us fine gentlemen. So.
Well, you're fine gentlemen to me, Now to somebody else might be a degenerate or something,
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
That obviously hasn't hurt us that much.
Oh,
Yeah.
I behave. See, when I'm on Gary's show, I behave. So that's why he thinks I'm a fine gentleman.
When Gary first hit me up today, I didn't have any clue it had anything to do with like podcast related, and then we kept talking, and I was like, "Yep, we're doing this. Yep, this is the time," and it all seemed to work. So cool. It's been a long time since it's been like a same day guest allocation, so that was cool that it came together pretty simple, like the good old days.
Right.
But yeah, so we did VOD this week. Nothing theatrically released. Lots of options, but it seemed most fitting because this is the week of Halloween, the actual holiday, and I think it was Venom that brought it up in our chat. Like, we haven't done a Halloween themed movie yet, just because everything in October, like the we got Terrifier 3, but it happened to have a Christmas theme to it of all things. So luckily we had one available to us that released on Hulu as part of they call it Huluween. I don't even know what else they released. I guess like there was a new
Mr. Crockett,
American
I think,
Horror
is
Story stuff.
Mr. Crockett also
that's
came
right.
out.
Okay.
Mr. Crockett's also officially branded with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there we go. Which will be a clue, and we're not doing Mr. Crockett, but we are doing a movie called Carved. And let's see our synopsis from IMDb. A group of survivors find themselves trapped in a historical reenactment village on Halloween, where they must unite to battle a sentient, vengeful pumpkin. All right, so a killer pumpkin. Interesting. So we will start with our general thoughts before we get into any spoilers. So Venom, tell us what you thought about Carved.
Isn't it interesting that on the same week that Carved comes out, Mr. Crockett is released, and they both have the same, well, maybe not the same star, but the reporter from Carved is Mr. Crockett. And the other thing is both movies take place in 1993. Like, that's really weird to me. Both of them are on Hulu. Both of them take place in the same year, and both of them have the same star. So, kind of interesting. And like I said, not that he's the star for this movie, but I thought it was mildly interesting because I did watch Mr. Crockett this week. But that's a conversation for another show. So, Carved. Overall, I thought Carved was a fun movie. It's definitely, it is the sheer definition of turn off your brain and just enjoy the ride. I mean, you can't really take this movie too seriously. You can't rely on the science. You can't rely on like backstory, things like that. There's just a lot of suspension of disbelief throughout this one. I mean, for fuck's sake, it's a sentient pumpkin. Of course, there's going to be suspension of disbelief. Overall, I thought the pumpkin, the creature, looks pretty cool when it's done practically. This movie is our creature is a combination of practical and CGI shots. Obviously, the longer shots when we actually see it walking on its tentacles is all CGI, but the close-up shots is a prop. Of our creature, and I thought those looked really cool. So all the close-ups of it. I do wish there was more to it, because ultimately it's just a creepy looking pumpkin with a few tentacles sticking out of it. I kind of wish it was a little bit more like the Grand Pumpkin from the Treehouse of Horrors segment. It's the Grand Pumpkin Millhouse, which this movie basically is a remake of that segment. A pumpkin, comes to life during a pumpkin carving contest and takes out all the participants. I mean, it's literally a remake of that segment, which I absolutely love, so I'm okay with it. Is this movie objectively great? I wouldn't go that far. Obviously, you're going to get some subpar acting. You're going to get some, indie actors, doing the best that they can with the material that they're given. But ultimately, no Oscar winners here by any stretch. The score is serviceable. The cinematography is serviceable. There's a couple of decent kills in the film, one or two that are actually really entertaining. But it seems like the strength of the gore of this movie is in its aftermath shots. You may not see every kill, may not be on screen, but at least the movie doesn't skimp on aftermath. Lots of severed body parts, lots of decapitated heads, lots of bodies just laying around. I mean, the movie actually opens with this great shot of a post-massacre in a barn at a pumpkin carving contest, and then we get a time jump backwards. So another thing I like about this movie is that it's basically the entirety of the movie is basically one long set piece. And I usually like movies like this. Yes, we get some, we get a couple of scenes at the beginning, one of a play that's being held, and then another one of a TV interview being done. But they all are still part of this pumpkin carving contest / holiday Halloween event that they're having in this town. So I just like, I feel like the pacing is nice and peppy. The movie's 95 minutes long, so it's not a big investment. Some good kills, whether you're satisfied by the end of the movie, that's going to come at a viewer-to-viewer basis, I thought the ending was a little silly. Not necessarily what happens to our major creature, but what happens after that. I just thought it was a little over the top and goofy. I just felt like it was kind of a waste of time, but we'll get into that when we, get to the spoiler-filled section. So I'll cut off my general thoughts now by basically saying, this is a fun movie. It's not an objectively great movie, but it's a good Halloween film. It's quick, it's got nice pacing, it's got some good kills, and it has a decent creature. And considering this year we've actually kind of had a little bit of a slowdown in Halloween horror films, whereas last year it felt like we did a Halloween movie every week in October. This year it's literally just this final week of October. So a little bit of a lack of Halloween horror this year. And I know there were some other indies that were released. I saw, on some new release charts that came out, but overall, I had a good time with Carved. It's probably not anything that I'm really ever going to return to. Well, will it be an annual Halloween watch? I doubt it'll be an annual watch, though. I could see this turning into something like Haunt or Dark Harvest, where I may not watch it every October, but I'll pop it in periodically, every 2 or 3 Octobers maybe. So yeah, overall, a fun movie, not to be taken too seriously. And that's it for me.
All right, let's go to Don and Ellie. What were your general thoughts?
Oh, I absolutely love this. This is absolutely one of my favorite films of the year. Not even a top 10. This is a top 5 of the year film for me. I could not stop enjoying myself from this one. I love the setup. The holiday atmosphere just absolutely won me over. Pumpkin carving, the whole festival, the celebrations that go on. I love seeing that kind of stuff. That really kind of brought it in. I enjoyed the way that the pumpkin's created. I thought there's just enough hint at a backstory there that it kind of spells it out without really hammering it home. So you get an idea of what's going on. The teens are a lot of fun. They're not aggravating. They're not insulting. They're not they have their own personal issues that go on, but it's kind of like normal teenage issues, and then once everything kind of starts going, everything, just turns to hell and the pumpkin comes out and starts going crazy. They kind of take the approach of, okay, let's get out of here. Let's, try not to be stupid. And let's actually try to, put our brains together and actually, get out of this thing alive, which, is a really fun change of pace from most normal kind of films that are, going to have your irritating, annoying assholes that try to think for themselves and try to, put the group at danger just to survive for their own personal stake. That's kind of a trope that I really, really, really can't stand, and I'm kind of glad that this one went away from that. There's one character that kind of borders on that approach, but it's not a huge issue, and they're kind of taken out, soon after. So again, it's just left to a nice group of friends that actually act like friends, and they kind of take the approach of, okay, we got to get out of here alive. We've got to get everybody to safety. And, like Venom said, the majority of the film is just one extended plan to get to safety and get away from the creature, and then trying to use what they learned against it to try to enhance their odds, which is a fun way of going about it. It kind of adds some tension as the, pumpkin starts taking them down one at a time. Great kills, not standout. See, you don't get anything that really, jumps out at you and is like, oh wow, that's like creative or vindictive or just really, over the top. It's it kind of just plays into this, and this creature going amok and killing everyone. I do agree. I do think that the ending probably goes on a little too long. It probably should have ended at the first. There's an obvious place where it should have ended, and then it just keeps on going. But again, we can discuss that later. So yeah, overall, one of my favorite films of the year. This is definitely one that I would really recommend. I'm really glad that a lot of people are trying to give this one a chance and seemingly enjoying it. But yeah, this one just worked for me. I had so much fun with it. Yeah, I don't really have too many issues or quibbles with it. So yeah, great time. Definitely give it a shot. And I can't say it's going to be a mandatory watch, but it was just one that I just got invested in, and I just had a lot of fun with. So yeah, definitely, for this holiday season, or again, if you're kind of late to the party and you're not going to have enough time to put it in your list, definitely keep it on board for next year. You can do a lot worse, because we've had the first 4 months of this year to showcase just how crap this year was. So yeah, definitely keep it in mind for future marathons in the upcoming years. This was a blast, and I absolutely enjoyed it. So I guess with the risk of spoiling anything or not giving our guests anything to talk about, back to you, Mike.
All right. And with that, I will go right to Gary Hill. What are your general thoughts on Carved?
It's fun enough. It has a cool, like, not all the way unique. I don't see many films about like killer pumpkins though, and the motivation that we get, but why they're killer pumpkins. And I love the there's a scene that yeah, it's quite vicious. We'll get into it during spoilers, but yeah, I like the look of the creature. It kind of looks like a low budget, but with the budget in a way. It kind of resembles. Remember in the Killer Tomatoes films when the tomatoes had a face and they started talking?
Yeah.
That reminded me of with the look of the creature that
I can get behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
um the way it stalks and kills people, stalks, they get gored by a gourd. The puns can go for days, people. But yeah, the way it kills, and I love a good tentacle creature, and it uses the vines to kill people in hilarious ways. And like you guys said, the kids in the film are pretty likable. There's not too many, like, with the exception of a couple people that I was glad to see go. Um, you get behind them. I think so, and that always helps me with a horror film personally. That I don't want these folks to die, but if they die, I want it to have some kind of impact. And but good times though, and a good holiday fare. Like they said, I wouldn't give it top 5 of the year, Don, but God bless you, sir, for loving what you love. That's all I gotta say about that. Um, but I would say to check it out. If you have a Hulu subscription, it's right there, no excuse. And I would yeah, just say check it out, man. It's decent for what it is.
Cool. All right. So yeah, I'll pretty much agree with the overall sentiment. Like it's not like a top 5. I don't even think it's a top 10 movie necessarily for me, but it is a fun, serviceable, holiday themed movie available on streaming that people should check out. I think obviously the Killer Pumpkin's an interesting villain or creature, I guess is more appropriate. Um, I like that the movie that there's not too much like filler. They get into it relatively quick. Like Venom said, we have pretty much one centralized like set piece that is being used in the movie. It's cool. Not really anybody unlikable in this. I think this movie is like under 90 minutes. Has a lot going for it. Yeah, I think some of the CGI gets a little wacky, when they try to do the bigger things with the pumpkin, but the look of it, especially when it, like Venom said, when it's in prop form, I think looks really good. I think the kills are pretty cool. And as far as like rewatchability, I think Hulu kind of has this thing going on, and it started a few years back when they started doing like they would do like a movie for like every holiday, and it's almost like their own version of doing like Hallmark like Christmas movies. Because like for people that I don't watch Hallmark Christmas movies a lot, but my wife does. But she usually watches them during Christmas season, so Hulu kind of has that formula down with like their holiday movies. This year, they didn't do it this year, but like for something like Carved, when it's coming out specifically for the holiday season, I think it's the type of movie that you kind of flock to and want to give a chance, because it's like you're in the spirit. It's October, we're getting close to Halloween, and look, it's an actual horror movie with that theme going on. So I think Hulu, as far as like the marketing of like when they make these films and why, it kind of makes sense for why it's coming out this month. And I think it's a fun movie. It doesn't quite hit the highs for me that it does for Dawn, obviously, but I was happy with it. Like on IMDb, I think it's like like 4.4. I think that's kind of low. I mean, I think it's at least more fun, and it has cool kills enough to be higher rated than that. But I didn't even see how many total reviews, so it could just be skewed low based on how many people have seen it so far. But I would recommend it. I think, especially, but I think it will help to watch it kind of in the Halloween season when you're looking for new stuff that's related to Halloween specifically. Killer Pumpkin, Halloween, you can't really go wrong. But yeah, overall, I had a fun time with it. A lot of the same stuff as what everybody else already said. I thought the cast was cool. I love, they do, of course, they do the gimmick with like our old pro who's going to tell everyone how everything's done, and that person never ends up lasting long. So that's cool. And yeah, the ending, did it stick the landing? Maybe, maybe not. But overall, like by the time you're there, you know what kind of movie you're watching, so it can be forgiven for this kind of movie. So I was down for it. If you're looking for a movie to just kind of have a little fun time with for the holiday spirit, give it a shot. Get carved with carved. So back to you, Venom.
Yeah, I think this would be a great little movie to watch with friends on Halloween night. You know, if you're the type that aren't going to a party, you know, don't have to take any kids trick or treating, whatever. I mean, this is a great movie for 3-4 friends, some beers, some takeout pizza, and this is a fun Halloween watch. Like I said, shut off your brain. You're not getting The Exorcist or The Substance or anything like that with this movie. You're definitely getting something that's just a little bit more fun, more silly. The Substance might have been a bad example, actually. Forget that. But anyway, I do want to go over my biggest pet peeve with the movie, and it's something that's been bothering me more and more over the years. People talk about misrepresentation in cinema, and I know as soon as I say that, people think I'm going to go on some kind of racist tirade, but I absolutely am not. What I'm railing against here is I am fucking sick of the representation of stoners in horror movies, all right? I understand this movie takes place in 1993, which was right in the middle of, that whole time of making fun of stoners in horror movies. But motherfucker, I've been a daily pot smoker for about 30 years. The last job I had was a 6-figure job. I live in the nicest part of the San Fernando Valley, and I have a hot-ass wife. I am not a fucking dumbass loser who literally his brain goes to mush as soon as he smokes. It's one of these things that's been pecking at me for a few years. I'm so sick of the loser stoner in fucking horror movies. It really bugs the shit out of me. Probably not since Cabin in the Woods have I actually seen a stoner that actually has a mildly accurate representation. Like, that guy wasn't a total loser. In fact, he made it to the end of the movie. So, kudos to him. But
what's your thoughts on corn, though? That's my curious question here.
What's that?
What's your thoughts on corn, though? By the way, I mean, that's my curious question.
Corn, as in the food or the band?
Well, yeah. Both, really. Come on.
Or the candy version. No, like I said, it's one of those things that every time I see a stoner in a horror movie, my eyes roll because I already am anticipating the bad representation of the goofy. And I understand that to some people it's funny, but guess what? The only people who find Clint funny in this movie are going to be people that have never smoked weed. Because they don't understand that you don't turn into a fucking blithering idiot just because you smoke a joint, okay? And it really, I've spent the majority of my life trying to improve the representation of cannabis aficionados, and then we get a movie like this that just kind of shits on everything that I've been trying to do. So yeah, any filmmakers that can hear my voice, please think about the stoners that are in your horror movies. Don't make them the fucking loser douchebag that does everything wrong, because that's not who we all are. And I noticed that Mike's being very, very quiet, because I'm sure Mike agrees with me, but maybe since he's a parent, maybe he doesn't want to be too vocal about agreeing with me. So I understand that. But like I said,
I just didn't want to interrupt. And you're telling me when you smoke, you don't go dancing in the pumpkin patch with the headphones?
I know. I don't driving a van and drive into a tree. I don't know. I can't say I've ever smoked a joint and driven into a fucking tree. So yeah, just like I said, it's one of those things. It's a stupid thing to kind of rail against, because ultimately when it comes to race representation, that's obviously a much bigger deal. Obviously, if black people or Asians or Hispanics are being represented poorly in cinema, that's a much bigger deal than stoners, because who the fuck cares about stoners if you're not a stoner yourself? So it's just one of those things I gotta voice, because every time I see a character like Clint, it just irks me, and it brings down the movie. That's the other thing, is that it bugs me so much that suddenly I like the movie a little bit less. Now, I will say, because of the final shot of the movie, it kind of brought it back up, because fuck that guy Clint, he got what he deserved, and I'm so happy that he got what he got. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, anything else anybody wants to talk about before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of this story?
No, good.
I'm good.
Yes, I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, I don't think we really need to do a walkthrough. This is a fairly basic story. Basically, a pumpkin that looks really fucked up that should have never been picked from the pumpkin patch is picked during a pumpkin carving contest. It comes to life. It starts killing everyone who was involved with the pumpkin carving contest. Ultimately, he'll kill anybody who gets in his way, but his aim is for the people that were specifically in the pumpkin carving contest. By the time we get, and then, hilarity ensues from there. We get, mad scenes of this pumpkin basically looking like an octopus because it's using its tentacles as appendages, so it's walking around. So it literally looks like a weird little octopus running around. Almost like, in some shots, it almost looked like a spider. It almost looked like the spider from Sting or something in the dark shots, in the poorly lit shots. But yeah. Basically, it just starts taking out people left and right with some very creative kills, which we'll go over. We'll talk about the kills here in a little bit. Until it gets to a final scene where it is discovered that the pumpkin is actually propagating, where it's actually creating more little pumpkins. But it obviously, anybody who grows pumpkins knows it takes a long time. Pumpkins, it's not like corn where you can grow it in like a month, or tomatoes or whatever. I mean, you need like an entire season. So once we see the little pumpkins, they're exactly that. They're little pumpkins. So once the big pumpkin is dispatched via what is that tool called? Like just some kind of tractor, a tiller, I think. Is that what it's called? A tiller?
I think they said something similar, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up on a farm, I can't tell you, but that sounds like the proper term they used.
Yeah, exactly. So basically just one of those things that, kicks up the dirt so that farmers can plant their seeds, whatever. And they get the big pumpkin trapped in there. It ends up getting wrecked. And then after that, they discover that, oh no, the pumpkin actually had a bunch of babies, which is funny because usually they would just do that with like a final sting. Where, after the movie is over, the camera will pan back towards the pumpkin patch and then we'll see like a little pumpkin. But instead, the filmmakers here decided to give us an entire scene with the little pumpkins. And that's kind of what I was railing.
That's what I was mentioning too with mine, where there was an obvious point to end it. And exactly. That was the reveal of their patch was there.
Yeah, exactly. They should have done. I mean, we've seen it in countless other horror movies, including the aforementioned Sting, where we see those spider eggs at the very end of the movie. But they actually give us an entire scene where Trevor, the younger brother of our main star, Akira, our main protagonist, goes to stomp one of the little baby pumpkins, but somehow it's already got powers so that it can use its tentacles to actually grab and choke. We get a scene where Trevor is almost choked to death by one of the baby pumpkins, but then a character that we thought was dead makes a reappearance, saves Trevor. And then the thing that I really questioned is like, why the fuck did they take the time to get all the little pumpkins, line them up on the road, and then run them over with the tiller, or the rototiller? Ha, I got it. It's a rototiller. Anyway, like, why not just go stomping them, hitting them with it? Like, because that girl, the girl who we thought was dead and made a return, she just stabbed it with a stick. A flute, actually. It was a fucking flute. She had a flute in her hand, and she stabbed it with a flute. I'm thinking, why go to all the trouble to get them all, line them up on the road, and then squash them all with the rototiller? That just makes no sense. And then the very last shot of the movie is my guilty pleasure kill of the movie. We already talked about Clint. He is the stoner of the movie. There's actually two stoners in the movie, but the other one is our first kill of the film. He's literally the very first kill, so we don't really spend a lot of time with him. But I'm sure he would have annoyed me too had he survived. But like I said, Clint, because Clint was the one who actually picked the pumpkin, who actually cut it out of the pumpkin patch, the pumpkin takes its sweet time with Clint. Unfortunately, we don't really get to see everything that it does to him, but we do get to see the aftermath. And the aftermath is we get to see Clint's severed head, which, by the way, if you like decapitated heads, this is the movie for you, my friends. These pumpkins love cutting people's heads off, or this pumpkin loves taking people's heads off. About halfway through the movie, it actually, like, I was questioning, why does this pumpkin like decapitating people so much? But then about halfway through the movie, I'm like, oh, right. we take pumpkins and we carve faces into them. So he's cutting off our heads and putting faces, because on a couple of occasions, he actually like will set up the head like on a scare. Like in one instance, he puts it on a scarecrow. That was the guy who played Mr. Crockett in that other movie, who plays the reporter in this movie. So, like I said, it's a fairly cut and dry movie. Mutant Pumpkin. We do get a very thin explanation, but I do, like Don mentioned earlier, I like that they don't constantly push it in your face, because this movie could have had an environmental message. You know, it could have had like social commentary about nuclear waste, because basically what ends up happening is, or what happened before the events of the movie is, a year previously there was a train accident, a derailment. That train was carrying nuclear waste. Nuclear waste spilled onto the pumpkin patch, and we end up with a mutant pumpkin. So, like I said, the explanation is thin. You kind of have to suspend disbelief, but ultimately, it's, you know, like I said, it's a silly creature feature, so it's enough for us. I'm not necessarily complaining about this is one instance where I will not complain about the lack of backstory, because ultimately it doesn't really add that much more to the movie. A train spill with nuclear waste, I'll accept it. No big deal. So at this point, yeah, let's get into these kills, man. We get some pretty gnarly kills in this movie. Let's talk to our guest. Oh, go ahead, Don, before we talk to Gary.
I just absolutely love the way that it comes forward in the carving contest, where it just slices the guy's face open. It's like it's like the first thing we see, and he just slices the guy open.
So good. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably the scene of the film when the pumpkin first comes to life, because he kills at least about a half dozen people. And later in the film, they start to make the connection that the pumpkin is specifically going after people that actually participated in the pumpkin carving contest. And the pumpkin's kind of ignoring other people. Now, obviously, if you get in the pumpkin's way, it's going to take you out. Multiple people in this movie who were not part of the pumpkin carving contest do get taken out, but like I said, don't get in the killer pumpkin's way, I guess, is the moral of this story. But yeah, let's bring in Gary. And Gary, any kills in this movie that kind of, you know, are memorable? Maybe one or two that you really liked? Talk about those.
Well, the most memorable kills are, you know, I'd say in the carving contest scene, and, you know, from the pumpkins themselves, because you could tell, you find out later that, you know, their motivation is, hey, it's going after all the people that were in the carving contest, because the way they film that, it's almost like they're doing it almost too gleefully. Like, yeah, we're killing pumpkins and we're so happy about this. And it's like they're digging a little harder just to get all the guts out and stuff and slamming them on the table. And before, you know, he's able to get the knife into our monster pumpkin. Yeah, it's like he's watching all this and just getting more and more pissed off, obviously. But yeah, the best kills are in this scene, because the problem with this movie is, it takes place at night, and this is the best lit of all the kill scenes that there is. And it just goes gonzo and kills like 15 people or more in the scene.
No, valid, absolutely. For me, we don't even really get to. I mean, we get to see the death. Oh well, actually, no, we fully get to see the death. My favorite kill is going to be the reporter. And that's more because it's a guilty pleasure kill for me. Since the reporter was kind of an asshole, you know, they set up the reporter to be kind of a douchebag, where all he wants to talk about is the disaster from the year previously, you know, the train wreck and the spill. Whereas everybody in the town doesn't want to talk about it anymore. They've talked about it for the last year. They just want to celebrate Halloween, have their pumpkin carving contest, have their Halloween play, and move on with their life. But here's this reporter, you know, very similar to the podcaster in Terrifier 3, just rehashing old shit, wanting to, you know, get more quotes, only concerned with their own ratings and not necessarily the feelings of the people that they're interviewing. So he's definitely set up to be an absolute asshole. So that kill for me, especially when we see the aftermath, like when we see the kill, it's great, because he gets impaled by one of the tentacles. Then one of the other tentacles grabs a knife and literally does like a jailhouse stabbing where it stabs him like 12 times in 3 seconds. It's very American Me. Fucking awesome. And then, of course, as is kind of the norm for this pumpkin, he takes the guy's head off. Now, usually the pumpkin just, it'll decapitate people, it'll sever their limbs, it'll kill them, and it usually just kind of leaves them, drops them on the ground. But with the reporter, it actually took the reporter's head and put it up on a scarecrow. The scene when Pam walks by it, I thought, I laughed. I laughed my ass off. I'm like, you deserve that shit, fucker. So yeah, for me, it's definitely the reporter. Don or Mike, any kills that were memorable for you guys?
I mean, I already brought mine up. The other one that I really liked is kind of like that old one where they take out the Vietnam vet or whatever. Yeah, the guy doing the
impassioned speech. Yes, indeed.
The Samuel L. Jackson scene. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as soon as somebody like that does an impassioned speech in a horror movie, they're about to die. I mean, Feast. I mean, we could name a bunch probably.
Feast was the immediate thing I thought of when it's like the town or local badass shows up and they're like, this is what we got to do. Everyone listen to me, you idiots. And then right after the end of the speech, they're gone.
Exactly.
Even Club Dread, I remember.
I forgot about Demon Knight, too. That one guy at Demon Knight that was supposed to be the hero.
We're going to take our stand now. And, slam.
Oops.
Because the thing
those are great.
Yeah, because the thing is that he actually does have some, like, intelligence behind him with the reconnaissance. You see him like, he's observing them in, like watching them through the slats in the, because I think they're in one of the utility sheds, and you see like shortly after that you see the pumpkin running around and he's talking about being stealthy and observing and trying not to draw attention. And then as soon as he does that, then the pumpkin starts attacking them inside, which is a fun little scene. So. Yeah, that whole thing was a lot of fun. I really like that one as well.
Yeah, and I also like that guy didn't come off like a douchebag, because sometimes that character will come off like a real douchebag. But like Don said, this guy was actually intelligent. He was actually observing. He was the one who noticed that this thing's acting like an animal. It's not acting normal, and trying to figure out what they might be able to do to get an advantage over the thing. So yeah. It was almost sad to see the poor guy go. I mean, he survived Vietnam or whatever conflict he was talking about, and a pumpkin takes him out. That's almost sad. Oh man. I don't know. What else can we talk about? There's with a creature feature like this, kind of a low budget, quick in and out creature feature. There's not really a whole lot of layers to peel back. Not a whole lot to talk about. Like I said, the movie definitely could have leaned on an environmental message because of the nuclear waste, but they didn't, and I appreciate that. So
I wished in carved. I'll tell you what I wished in carved. Okay. This is equally more fun. They lean on the topic spill, and they just make it like one pumpkin. Like some of the corn that the guy had in his truck was infected, or maybe the pumpkin had like an army of infected gourds. This is the B movie lover in me. It would have been cheesy as hell, but this would have been, because they kept leaning in on that environment. Hey, we had this toxic spill years ago, and we're all trying to get over it. And this person's parents did. Is the pumpkin infected, or is the pumpkin just like possessed? They really don't say in the film what's going on with the pumpkin. So if they're going to lean into this environmental thing, make more plants infected. I would love that.
No, it's valid. I actually thought that was going to be the sting at the end. Like we were going to see like an ear of corn grow like a set of arms or something, or some other. Just to kind of set up like a sequel or something. But I mean, they did it anyway. They still, there's obviously still one of the baby pumpkins still around. Oh, I didn't even finish talking about that scene. That's right. Our movie ends with a shot of Clint's severed head up on a post, and his eyes have been plucked out, and he's got a Joker smile. He got the Glasgow smile where they ripped his mouth up to his ears. And then as the camera starts panning towards it, we see a single tentacle come out of the eyeball of the severed head, and then our movie fades to black, and that's the end of it. That kind of leads, or that kind of adds to me thinking about how smart this pumpkin was. Like, there's multiple times in this movie where the pumpkin does stuff that, for something that just became sentient, this thing is fucking smart. Like, I like some of the stuff that he did was craziness.
I got genuine laughs when the pumpkin when he was negotiating with the pumpkin, saying, "Hey man, we celebrate the pumpkins by carving them. We even make pumpkin pie." Maybe I should have said that.
Yeah, that was great. That's what I mean. I mean, it's almost word for word straight out of that Simpsons Treehouse of Horror segment.
I have to see this now. Yes.
Oh yeah, and if anybody who's interested, the Treehouse of Horror segment I'm talking about is called "It's the Grand Pumpkin Millhouse." Of course, It is a parody of "It's the Great Pumpkin," Charlie Brown. It is from Treehouse of Horror 19, which of course was during the 20th season of The Simpsons. So, and it's the final segment of the episode too. So, I'm sure a lot of people, with Disney Plus or Hulu accounts are probably, watching all through all the Treehouse of Horror, kind of like I do every October. I haven't actually gotten to 19 yet this month, but now I'm looking forward to it because, like I said, this movie is almost a carbon copy of that segment. So, very, very cool. I don't know. What else can we talk about, guys? I mean, like I said, there's not really a whole lot to talk about. We talk about creature design. We talk about the kills. We talk about the basic story. We've already talked about the characters. And I agree with most of the sentiment that's been talked about. Not a whole lot of shitty people in this movie. You guys, any regular listeners of the show know how much I get pissed off with bad characterization. But overall, yeah, I had no problem with this movie. Like, even the guy, the boyfriend, who they kind of started to set up as a douchebag because of what he did without telling his girlfriend, even he has a redemption later in the film. So, he ends up being a fairly likable character. The only real character in the movie I didn't like was Clint, like I said, and it's just more because of the representation. That's all. And also the actor who plays Clint, man, why does he play a loser in every fucking movie he's in?
I think that's kind of par for the course.
Yeah, like every time I see him.
Every time I've seen him, yeah.
I mean, he may not be a stoner in every movie, but he's always like the loser goofball. What's his name? Matty Carteropple, whatever his name is. But yeah, he's one of those guys that you recognize by face. Like, as soon as you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I've seen this guy in that and that. Kind of like Dick Miller. One of those character actors that you recognize their face, but you may not recognize their name. So, yeah.
Like the Hispanic lady in this movie, I recognize her face in like 5 things, including and I'll mention this, it's not horror, but I'm one of those people who love Nacho Libre way too much. And she
hell yeah.
She was the daughter of the guy who was having the party that was trying to get.
Oh my God, I totally forgot. You're right. Oh, that's awesome.
I get excited every time I watch it, so I have to mention Nacho Libre, that she was in that,
Oh. I actually went to a screener of Nacho Libre out here in LA, and Jack Black was there. I didn't get to meet him because the line was ridiculous, but it was a great little movie. I had a good time.
I have to mention this because DJ Qualls, one of the nicest guys I ever met, and I love him in just about everything. He's good in this too.
Yeah,
is an openly gay character in this thing, and he just happened to come out recently, although he's been gay for a long time. But
nice.
It seemed like not horned in, but like a happy coincidence that he got to say, hey, yeah.
Hey, it's pretty funny too how all the people around him, like, no one had any idea what he was talking about, and quoting Bryan Adams songs, and no one, like, in LA, we just have to look at that character and know that he's gay. Like, we just know. But there.
Suzanne would hate his guts, by the way, because she hates Bryan Adams. So, there's that,
I love her already then.
little secret. She hates Bon Jovi for some reason, and Bryan Adams,
Oh, that's awesome. I love her. Oh, and by the way, no one has even mentioned Chris Elliott yet. Fucking Chris Elliott has a cameo in this movie, and it's brilliant.
I was going to ask about that. Did Chris Elliott have like a stroke, or is that voice completely just for this character? Because when he first started talking, I was like, because that's not just like a minor kind of like mod to his voice. Like, I was really trying to dissect whether like he is just purely character acting here, or is like, did something happen with him? Because
No,
it's
he
it's a
probably has
convincing mod.
No, absolutely. I think most actors, what they'll do is they'll put a pouch in their mouths, kind of like Brando did for The Godfather, to get that kind of weird, almost slurry voice.
Yeah.
Because you could see there was something in his cheek. Now, obviously, he's a, kind of a redneck character, so it would make sense that he's, into chewing tobacco or chaw or whatever. So I think that kind of affected his voice. Somebody who has a pouch, like a skull pouch in their mouth all the time, it's going to change their voice because they're going to have to adjust for that stupid thing that's in their lip and gums, so. But yeah, fucking brilliant. And we don't even get a lot of Chris Elliott. We get 2 scenes with them, but both scenes are so endlessly entertaining, and I was so sad to see him go. I was really, really hoping that he was going to be like the guy who shows up at the end to save the day or something, But no, instead, he ends up getting shot in the head by a pumpkin. Oh, so good. All right, well, I don't think I have a whole lot more left. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
No, or at least I don't, because it's a pretty straightforward movie. Like a lot of the modern day slashers like this, they try to add like a secondary aspect to the plot. Like we've seen so many recently where it involves like, oh, you got to time travel back to this time, or there's something else going on. This one is pretty straightforward. It's a killer pumpkin killing people, and they're trying to figure out how to survive and kill it. And that's pretty much it. And that's not a knock on the movie. It makes it an easy, quick watch. Like, so it's not like we have a huge plot here to dissect.
I'll give it one thing, besides the fact that, it's straightforward plot, Pumpkin comes to life and is killing people. Besides the setup, till you get to the carving contest, but there's not a whole lot of lulls where the pumpkin is not doing something. So I'll give Card that it makes the most out of a subpar setup creature. And I've seen worse. I've watched the Boogans, to where you watch the Boogans, and in the end you get one Boogan and you just want to give it a hug. Okay, these things are doing stuff. They got the tentacles going on, and it's fun. It's fun. It doesn't seem like an afterthought, except for the end, which seems like an afterthought. But till you get there, I think they do a lot with their creature, and I appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely.
Hell yeah, and they didn't unnecessarily make this like 2 hours, which is good.
Oh god, a 2+ hour horror comedy about a killer pumpkin. I just don't think that's gonna work. It has to be short. It has to be quick in, quick out. Especially because sometimes people will like to watch multiple movies on Halloween, and if one of them is 2 hours, that's kind of, it puts a damper on things, So
I did minor research on Carved, and I found out that there was a short called Carved before this made by the filmmaker. So maybe that sets up a little more of what we watch here. So
I'll have to look for that.
It's probably on YouTube somewhere, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, yep. I've watched a lot of shorts this month. My YouTube recommended carousel is almost all Funko Pop videos and horror shorts. All right,
Sweet.
Mike, close us out.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Fresh Cuts and our discussion on Carved. So before we wish everyone a happy Halloween, let's find out what new we have for people to listen to. Venom, take it away.
Okay, about the only new thing that I have is going to be the latest episode of Creature Comforts. No More Room in Hell presents Creature Comforts episode 31 is now available, where Don, Derek, and myself look at the 1979 nature run amok movie Prophecy, with our mutant Yogi the Bear running around killing people and making kids explode into down feathers.
Man Bear Pig.
Man Bear Pig, exactly. And we actually talk about Man Bear Pig on the episode. So yeah, it was a fun episode. Like I said, that episode's available right now as we speak. So go ahead and check that out. If you are subscribed to No More Room in Hell, you should be getting the Creature Comforts episodes as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and announce the next episode because it's one that we've been waiting for a long time. Some people have been waiting 70 years. Next month on November 4th, it is the 70th anniversary of the original Godzilla from 1954. And we are planning on recording it this week so that the episode is actually going to be released on Godzilla Day, November 4th. That's the plan as of right now. Please don't hate me if something happens and I don't get it up quick enough. But as of right now, the plan is to record this Friday. I'm going to edit it the very next day. And it should be up on Monday, November 4th, which is Godzilla Day. That will be the actual 70th anniversary of Godzilla. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to that one. Hopefully, we tentatively have a guest joining us that all three of us have worked with in the past, but I'm still waiting to hear back from them, so it may not happen, but hopefully it does. But regardless, either way, right around November 4th, look out for episode 32 of Creature Comforts, where we will be looking at Godzilla 1954. Gogeta, to be specific. But yeah, that's it for me. Like I mentioned last week, all of my guest spots for October have been pretty much postponed to either November or December, so that's pretty much it. We are planning on trying to get another Crystal Lake Gift Shop episode recorded early November, and then we have tentative plans for the next episode of the main show. Oh, and speaking of the main show, we did actually just record our annual Halloween commentary that we do every year at Halloween and Christmas. The No More Room in Hell Halloween special this year is the WNUF Halloween special. And it's actually a first-time watch for one of us. Go figure. So, yeah, that should be out. I would imagine it'll be out either as you listen to this episode or shortly after. So go ahead. If you're a fan of WNUF, if you have access to it and you want to hear our commentary, go ahead and check that out. And that's it for me, Mike.
All right. How about you, Don?
Yeah, main thing for me is Creature Comforts, not just with the latest episode, Prophecy, but I am so looking forward to discussing my favorite film of all time. I haven't had a chance to do that as of yet, and I'm really looking forward to this upcoming episode. Only other thing available for me is Horror Countdown, winding down the year, so hopefully we'll get season 4 up already sooner rather than later. So yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that because nothing else is really available. So yeah, back to you.
All right, and let's go over to our guest, Mr. Gary Hill. I know the many shows you do, but is anything new out there for people to listen to?
Well, the last one we put out was recently. What is it called? How to build a more subordinate humanoid, and that includes a review of Logan's Run and a little known film that I think is worth your time called Parts to Clonus Horror.
I love Parts.
It's a good film. It's a good film. But yeah, you can check that out. And next one to come out is hopefully a Halloween show. Me and X recorded a review of Graydon Clark's Wacko, which if you don't know what that is, that's a spoof movie. I think it's Andrew Dice Clay's very first role. It's very fun, and the great and powerful Joe Don Baker is in that movie too. It's just it's crazy, and that and stuff that's in the works that I hope works out and will be on this episode. Or else you might just be hearing the Wacko review, which isn't that bad. So I'm looking forward to whatever is on the Halloween episode that I'm just spewing together here. You guys will enjoy. So there's that, and everything else is pretty much on hold. Really, right now it's just Last Call of Torches will be probably in November. I'll say in November we'll definitely have a new one because once spooky season's over and everybody's settled, and and I know Cameron and his wife are big on doing stuff for the Halloween season, so they'll be busy for the next week or so. And but next one of those should be Undisputed, and I believe the Pam Grier film, The Arena or Arena is called. I think that was the Patreon special that you will hear on only on the Legion Patreon feed. But yeah, that's about it for me. I just try to keep a level head and not let the world drive me crazy. That's all. Yeah.
Cool. As far as me, all my new stuff has already been spoken for with Venom. So looks like we do have our next scheduled main show locked and loaded. So hopefully that goes as planned. And then is there anything this weekend post Halloween week?
Nothing
theaters?
theatrical, no. Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Because Heretic is next week, right?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So
You
yeah.
guys give Crockett a chance. I think Crockett's terrific. I think.
Yeah, I saw Mr. Crockett. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. I watched that the week it came out.
If you're drawing straws on something to do, I had a good time with it.
Oh yeah, there's tons of VOD available. But cool. All right. Well, Mr. Gary Hill, thanks a lot for making your return after all this time. It was a blast to talk movies with you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Yeah, coming on and like I said, if it was VOD, I could probably get to it. It's just without being a licensed driver and not really wanting to spend $17 to go to the movies, because I'm old. I fall asleep with things sometimes. It's a waste of money sometimes for me. Yeah, I could probably be there with you guys, and yeah.
All right. Well, with that said, thanks everyone for listening to another episode of Fresh Cuts. We will be back in about a week's time with another episode. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
Bye, dear listeners.
Happy Halloween, everybody, and don't piss off any pumpkins, or at least try not to.
Somebody needs to piss on a pumpkin in this movie. It really, make me, I don't know.